Hey everyone, this is Phil, and in this video I will be talking about one-handed. So this is a beginner's guide to one-handed. So if you are a beginner or if you're looking to get into one-handed and you're just curious, hopefully this video will give you the background information and all the things you need to get into the event. One-handed is by far my favorite event, so I'm always interested in how people can learn one-handed and just effective ways to get better at the event. So I've collected a lot of information, and the goal of this video is to share that information with you so that if you're starting out doing one-handed, you'll have a much easier time doing it. So this video will cover four main topics. Number one is the agenda. The agenda is pretty much a list of things you should try or look out for when you first start one-handed. So the instant you start, things to look out for. Number two is gear. What kind of cubes should you use? I believe that one-handed is a little more demanding when it comes to gear. So I'll be talking about that in that section. Number three is algorithms, how to learn them, what order to learn them, how should you go about that. That's number three. And number four is miscellaneous advice, just things that I randomly thought of that don't really fit inside the other three categories, and things that I wish I did when I was a beginner. So those are the four main topics: agenda, gear, algorithms, and miscellaneous advice. Hope you guys really enjoy, and if you have any questions, please comment and we'll talk about one-handed. Let's get into the agenda. So the first thing on the agenda is to pick a hand. This you should do first because chances are you'll be sticking with it for the rest of your solving life. So I personally use my left hand. Even though I am a right-handed 3x3 solver, that sounds kind of weird, but let me explain really quickly. So right-handed solvers really like R and U moves, so things like this. And the left hand delivers these types of moves because you can use your pinky to control the R face and the index finger to control the U face. So it delivers the same types of moves you prefer when you do normal two-handed 3x3 solves. And if I were to hold the cube with my right hand, I don't get access to the R face. And so it's really awkward, and I have to rotate in order to access it. And I think that extra mental work to rotate is not really worth it, which is why I use my left hand. A lot of people that are right-hand cubers are also right-hand in real life. So I eat with my right hand, I write with my right hand, but I found that if you just do exercises and you practice, you can also strengthen your left hand. And, it's not going to be very comfortable when you first start, but I don't think any hand is going to be comfortable when you first start. It's going to be slow and awkward, and your hand will be weak. But if you practice, everything is going to be fine, and you'll be surprisingly strong after a while. And I think starting with the left hand, if you're a right-handed solver, and doing the vice versa if you're lefty, will really benefit you in the end because you see the cube in a more natural way. So the second thing on the agenda is to learn how to turn. There are many, many different turning styles, and there are branches from that incorporate different types of like slight quirks in the turning. There are two main styles. There's flick-based, so something like this. This is known as the Japanese style, and there's push-based like this. I think this is called Western. I'm not really sure. A lot of Americans were doing this, I think about 8 years ago or something. But I personally use the flick-based. It appeals to me more, and I feel it's faster for me. I have a video that teaches flick-based turning. I will include the link in the description so you can check it out. But like picking a hand, learning how to turn is really important because your turning technique will be with you for the rest of your solving life, and it's better to get the learning over soon, sooner than later at least, because you don't want to solve with really awkward technique, which will be slow, B might be uncomfortable, and C might actually discourage you from doing one-handed because it'll just feel so weird. So you want to get the technique down early so that you can focus on other things, more interesting things like how do you do F2L better, how do you learn algorithms better, things like that are much more interesting to focus on rather than how to physically move. So just try to get all the physical aspects down first as early as possible. The third thing on the agenda is to start doing exercises. I have a exercise video in the description for you guys to check out. You don't have to do exactly that, but the idea is to exercise yourself so that you can turn with fluency, and you can turn many, many times without getting tired, because in order to practice, you need to be able to solve many times in a row without getting tired. So those are the three basic things on the agenda. Pick a hand, learn how to turn, and try some exercises. These are all physical things, and I highly recommend getting them down early because then you don't have to worry about it for pretty much the rest of your life. Let's talk about gear. Okay, so let's talk about gear. A lot of people think that it's the cuber and not the cube, and I think that's definitely true in some aspects, but at the same time, I think we have to relax it a little bit for one-handed because one-handed is physically demanding, and if you don't have the right cube, it's going to be really awkward. So if the cube is too big or too small, or too light or too heavy, or too clicky or too smooth, you'll have issues turning and you'll have issues with comfort. So it's important to find the right puzzle. So dealing with cube size, you want to make sure that you can handle your most awkward turns without stretching. So for a flick style turner like this, you want to make sure that you can reach the U layer like this or the R prime layer like this without stressing yourself too much. Personally, on this 57mm cube, I do feel like I'm stretching a little too much to grip these layers, and as a result, when I actually solve the cube over and over again and try to turn as fast as I can, it gets me really tired and I can't continue past 30 or 40 solves. This is why I picked the 55mm Anji. It's smaller, has a very similar feel, but it allows me to stretch easier so I can do quick motions without getting tired. So there's not really much stretching going on, and so it's the perfect size for me. My hands aren't that small, but they're on the small side, so I picked a 55mm cube to kind of complement that, the truth, which is that my hand is on the small side. This is a 50mm cube, and I have this as an example of choosing a cube that's too small. So if you do that, sometimes you'll miss the cube, and the reason is because the QB itself is small, so you actually have less space to work with. So your finger has to contact this specific area of the cube in order to push it forward. I find that's specifically, a problem with the pinky. If you use the pinky for R turns and R prime turns, you really have to think about it and watch yourself do it. And if you're not paying attention, you overshoot and turn really inaccurately. And that's an issue I faced when I played with and tried out the 50mm Anchi. So as a result, I kind of just went in the middle and got the 55. In terms of feel, my cube is really, really soft and smooth and slow. I have that because I like to control my cubes. I'm not really a fan of really speedy and slidey cubes because I tend to overturn if I use a cube like that. And the thing with overturning is that if you do overturn and you can't rely on corner cutting to make the next move, you have to correct your mistake with your finger in one-handed. That's the only thing you have. So correcting mistakes is really hard in one-handed. So I, prefer not to get myself in danger of making a mistake. So I have my cubes gummy and slow to make sure they don't overturn. I do this by adding really gummy lube and setting my tensions a little bit tighter. But of course, that's just my personal preference. So if you find a cube that you like and that's the right size, you can play around with the tensions and the way you lube it to give yourself your preferred feel. And once you have a cube that you really like, one-handing is actually really fun because it doesn't get you tired and you can do as much as you want. Of course, there is a limit at the end, but you won't feel like the limit is imminent when you are just picking up the cube. So that's pretty much a wrap on the gear. Make sure you pick a cube that's comfortable and you'll be all set. Okay, so this is going to be a short segment on algorithms. The first thing I want to point out is that you should not be discouraged if you notice that you can't automatically transfer your two-handed algorithms to your one hand. This happens to everybody, and I was very frustrated because I couldn't do it, and I thought to myself, hold on a second, I have to learn everything again. That was very frustrating, and I did not like that, but I liked one-handed better, so I decided that I just go with it and learn algorithms all over again. And many of you that get into one-handed will end up doing this. That's simply because one-handed algorithms have different specifications and different goals than two-handed algorithms. For two-handed algorithms, you can move many faces at once, and sometimes you can turn them simultaneously, like a U D prime. For one-handed, it's usually focused on comfort and physical efficiency. Can you make this string of moves in a row without stopping? So the one-handed algorithms will often look very different. Some of them will be more moves. So it's totally up to you how interested you are in one-handed and how much time you invest in learning one-handed algorithms. At some point, there's going to be a trade-off learning, purely one-handed algorithms versus doing other things in cubing. The one thing you can do, which is really easy, is to transfer over all the algorithms that are easy. So things like U-perms and SOONs and, just really easy PLLs and OLLs that you have down, not only in your hands, but in your head. You can transfer that really easily and start from there. A lot of the times when you look for one-handed algorithms, you have to look online at databases. I will have some links in the description for you guys to look at. It generally involves you going through a list and picking the ones you like, because usually when you turn one-handed, you really have to make sure that your algorithms are comfortable for yourself, and that's a more personal thing, I believe. So definitely check out the links and see what you can find, and make sure it suits your turning style. And that brings me back to another thing I said earlier. Make sure you know how to turn first, because if you don't know how to turn, you can't properly pick algorithms, and it gets really awkward when you finally learn how to turn and then you have to relearn more efficient algorithms. So this is why the agenda works like this way. It's so that you can get down the turning, and once you know how to turn, you know what's comfortable for you and you know what's impossible for you, and then you can start choosing algorithms. So the last thing, let's talk about some miscellaneous advice. All right, so I have two pieces of miscellaneous advice. Number one is to keep doing two-handed and keep learning your method. This is really important, especially if you are still in the process of getting faster, say trying to get sub 20 or trying to get sub 30. It's really important because doing two-handed will give you more opportunities to explore intuitive portions of your solve. So for instance, if you're a CFOP solver, generally, if you're trying to get sub 20 or sub 30, your F2 will have minor imperfections, like perhaps you don't use the shortest move count algorithm, or you don't see things quick enough. So if you practice two-handed, you'll give yourself a lot more opportunity to practice these intuitive portions. And it's nice to keep in mind that intuitive things are in your head and not in your hand, so you can easily transfer intuitive things from your two-handed solving into your one-handed solving, because you know how the pieces move and you know how it works, and so it's not really a burden to transfer it. So some of the things you learn during your two-handed practice will come in handy for one-handed. So do not neglect two-handed and do not abandon your method when you start one-handed. The other thing is to not hurt yourself. Do not hurt yourself. And this is really important for beginners that just try to, they're really excited to do one-handed and they try too much. This will actually impede your progression. So definitely keep your health in mind, and you'll be much happier in the long term. It's really really nasty to hurt your left hand if you're if you're practicing one-handed lefty, because chances are you'll use your left hand in other cubing events, and not being able to use a healthy left hand will really really make the rest of cubing really uncomfortable. So unless you are an exclusive foot solver, highly recommend, don't overexert yourself because you're excited and you want to get a few more solves in. It's better to think in the long run and to preserve your health, because one-handed can really, really, really take its toll on your hand. So that's pretty much it for my advice. I hope this video was helpful, and again, if you have any questions, please ask me anytime, and we'll talk about it. I will have a bunch of links in the description, and I will continue to add links if I find anything useful or if you guys suggest anything. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys find one-handed enjoyable, and see you in the next video.